What's up, all you duckies out there? I'm Duuz-Diz-Din, and I'm coming at you again with DuckTales, the 2017 reboot. This time it's Season three's Episode 8, titled The Phantom and the Sorceress. It's not your Phantom of the Opera, oh no, it's something much more vile, much more foul. Let's jump in, as Scrooge McDuck is beginning his day with a spot of tea. He actually ends up getting involved in a little bit of a situation where the kids have found themselves sucked into a video game. They manage to escape, but one of the monsters follow them out, and Scrooge immediately has to deal with it. They should have called the glitch techs. Great series, you gotta watch it. As well as DuckTales, up until its end. But we come to find out that this was actually done because someone made a wish and Lena's amulet ended up activating and sucking them into the video game Jumanji style. So it's added to the list of things that cause Lena's magic to activate in volatile ways, including one of which being making lists. So it's really started to get out of hand, with Scrooge kind of going on a bit of a tangent about how magic is always no good and chicanery and this and that, although he backtracks on that when it becomes obvious that he's making Lena feel very self-conscious because she is literally made of magic. However, in comes Dallas saying that the lost city of Goat Hool or whatever, that place that we never get to visit, is in need of assistance. So Scrooge tells the kids to come along as they go on a epic adventure in another parallel dimension. However, Lena hangs back as she's just not sure about her magic. She feels that it would just cause more trouble. So Webby and Violet stay behind with her, not wanting to leave her out and just having a nice sleepover for the most part. Unfortunately, as they sleep, they're awoken by a rap tap tapping at their door, and it's none other than Gladstone Gander, who, as it turns out, has somehow lost his luck. Apparently, after getting a random limo ride, he felt very off all of a sudden. And when he entered into a seafood buffet, he wasn't declared the 100th customer and given a free meal. He had to pay, but he had no money, and no money flew into his wallet when he opened it up. The bank was closed, and when he used the ATM, he only got the amount that he requested. No rubies, no extra amount of cash, no nothing. How do people live like this, I tell you? It's as if all of his good fortune magically vanished. Or the magic of his good fortune vanished. It's interesting to think that all this time, Gladstone's Gander's luck, he had the natural, you know, duck lack of luck, I guess you could say, because God's like when it comes to Feathery and Donald, there's definitely a lack of luck there. But for Gladstone, it always seemed odd that he was the luckiest out of all of the Duck family of that generation, I guess you could say. But no, he has this magical good luck that was sucked out somehow. And when they find some weird energy emanating from the portal of Goa'uld, they find none other than the Phantom Blot, sucking away the magic of the portal to Goa'uld. And he immediately turns his attention to Lena afterwards, sucking away her magic, which comprises her very being. But thanks to Webby, using her battle axe that she just happens to have, going in, striking at the Phantom Blot's magic draining gauntlet, she's able to damage it, and he has no choice but to escape in the process. But they realize that the Phantom Blot is a being who, through time immemorial, has always been after magic. He's always gone through the extremes to drain magic where he can. Now, it was never really the Phantom Blot's thing back in the day. He was this creature who would use magic to try to conquer the world. He'd use magic, he'd use science, he'd use whatever was at his means to try to dominate the world at large. So to see such a thing go on here, it's very much a shift in how this all functions. Very interesting direction to go with this character. And, they realize that the only person who would probably have a great amount of knowledge of such a character would be none other than Lena Inverse. You know, sh- Lena Inverse. Magica Dispel. I'm sorry. I have Slayers on the brain. But it would have to be Magica because she would be able to help um, Lena control her magic. Is magic, fighting off warriors, amulets. I'm thinking Slayers. But Lena needs a means of controlling her power in order to fight off the Phantom Blot, and that means going to Magica Dispel to get in a little bit of training. And we see that the Phantom Blot has quite a bit of a hatred for Magica, as well as an obsession, as he manages to repair his gauntlet, ready to set out once again to go after his magical prize. And we end up seeing Magica's lair, which is in the bog. And I gotta say, the place that she set up looking pretty sweet. I wonder how long it took her to get this up and running. But as soon as they go rap tap tapping at her door, she immediately goes after the amulet to get her magical power back. And says some very harsh things to Lena, saying, "Oh, you're a failure to our family. You're no good. You're such a goody two shoes," and blah blah blah. And Lena tries her best not to let it affect her, but it's obvious this has some, she's putting her down, and it's really having a negative effect on her. But as soon as she hears that the Phantom Blood is involved, she brings them all in to her home, which is filled with pizza boxes. It's very obvious that she's kind of hit rock bottom without her amulet, as in the same way that Scrooge did towards the end of the first season when he lost his amulet. As something about losing the thing you care for most causes you to go in a downward spiral, and that spiral involves nothing but pizza. That's my kind of downward spiral, I'll tell you that much. But she informs them that originally she used to lord over this village and, get all these offerings from the townspeople until one day she decided on a whim to just destroy the town. She was done ruling it, she had her fun, and she moved on. However, one of the townspeople swore vengeance upon her, and though she would take him down at every turn, he would always come back bigger, badder, and stronger with more and more lethal towards her until eventually he had the magic draining gauntlet, which was able to siphon away her power, and that being became known as the Phantom Blot. A very interesting backstory for the Phantom Blot. Always thought he was just this ink blot brought to life, but I guess this is a more down to earth explanation, as down to earth as you can get with magic involved and all that good stuff. But Lena calls out, "Okay, so this is your fault that he's out there doing all this stuff." But ultimately, Magica does agree to try to train Lena in order to control her power. But, Lena kind of has to be talked into it by Webby because ultimately it's just like she wants nothing to do with Magica. Magica caused all this. Ultimately, Magica should suffer the consequences, but unfortunately, that those consequences involves the death of Lena through magical drain. So Webby reassures her, and she gets the weird training from Magica. We get a montage. Everyone loves a montage. But as Lena trains, that helps the Phantom Blot zero in on their position. And while Lena starts to control the magic to a certain degree, Magica says that it's not enough. Lena hasn't made it her own. And the magic that she has won't be able to stop the blot, and it's only through giving her the amulet that they'll actually stand a chance. But Lena manages to use her own variants of the magic, and Lena questions why sometimes the magic is purple and sometimes it's blue, and Magica explains that every wizard, witch, sorceress, sorcerer, whatever, has their own magical signature and a color assigned to it, which is also something that is something that was in the Slayers as well, and just magical series as well. Gandalf the Grey, Lena the Actually, Lena's power was pink, I think it was. Her moniker was Pink, Naga the White Serpent, and Magica's color is purple, and that's why Lena's power sometimes is purple because she's drawing upon Magica's power. But Lena's power is blue, in fact, and that's what her power is derived from, this blue energy. That's how you know that she's using that power. And Webby recognizes it as the power of friendship. So they train some more, with Violet taking the amulet in order to get Lena to activate the power, her own power this time around. However, once Lena is attacked by Magica's power, Magica tries to get Lena to use the rage towards Magica in order to channel her own. But unfortunately, nothing much comes out. And Webby starts to realize that maybe rage isn't the path to go with all of this, that deep down, Lena's power comes from the magic of friendship. My Little Pony, anyone? However, while this is going on, the Phantom Blot manages to track them down and goes on the attack. However, when he tries to drain Magica of her power, we see that all she can really do is just parlor trick. She doesn't have any actual power at this point. And while the Phantom Blot still tries to go after her and at least take her down, Violet tosses the amulet over to Lena so that she can blast the blot, which distracts him so that everyone else can tie him up while Webby goes after the gauntlet. Very much Avengers and Infinity War style, when all the heroes were going after the Infinity Gauntlet. But the Phantom Blot manages to beat them back and starts to drain Lena of her power. But in the scuffle, the amulet goes flying over to Gladstone, who's just kind of been wallowing in his own depression up until this point. But Gladstone accidentally turns the amulet on himself, which changes him into Donald, which is just funny that it was either his worst fear is becoming like Donald, or it's just that ultimately his luck is as bad as Donald's. So, an interesting factor, but the Blot manages to gain the amulet and starts to siphon out the magic, which starts to destabilize Lena. And whereas Magica tells her to think about where she comes from, in order to get her to just gain the power within, it doesn't really help that much because when she thinks about Magica and where she came from in terms of that, it's nothing but depression. That she's nothing without Magica's power. However, Lena says that no, there's more to it than that. She was able to resurrect because of the power of friendship, because of the belief from Webby and Violet, their friendship, their connection is what was able to reconstitute Lena. And through that connection, Lena is able to, you know, beat back, becoming, just fading away basically. And she's able to rise to the occasion. However, while this does take the Blot off guard, he's able to siphon away her magic yet again from her source. However, Violet and Webby then join hands to empower Lena, and this allows her to unleash her full potential. Going into full on Super Saiyan Sorceress mode, I guess you could say. And her power manages to overwhelm the Blot's gauntlet, blasting him back and unleashing all the magic that he had stolen, including Gladstone's magic of good fortune. And so, with that, the Blot ends up being chased away by snakes that Webby had summoned, which I didn't talk about it before, but apparently Webby can talk to snakes. And with that, we see that Lena has fully embraced her own version of magical power. But with that, Lena doesn't need the amulet, meaning that Magica is free to take it for her own, regaining her power for the first time since the end of season 1. However, when she goes in to try to just demean and take down Lena, Lena manages to beat her back, dropping her into the bog, and with her losing her staff in the swamp. But she still retains the magical power, and Lena lets her know that now she can use her own power for good, and ultimately make this power her own. The only good thing Magica has ever done with her life, being the creation of Lena. And, Lena does it. She makes the magic her own and she flies her friends back home. I gotta say, I'm not the biggest fan of the outfit, but it's specifically the eyes Lena has in this magical form that really unsettles me for the most part. And so, with the magic returned, Scrooge and the boys are able to get back home, and from the magical world of Goat Hool, and the girls return as well, not really in for letting the boys in on the adventures that they had. Also, something weird of note is that the girls all have like washed out version of all the boys' colors. Whereas Huey has red, we have Webby with pink, Louie has green, and Violet has a lighter version of green, and whereas Dewey has dark blue, we have Lena with like a lighter blue. So something very interesting of note, I thought. I was just like they're the female trio that goes a little bit beyond Daisy's nieces of April, May, and June, I think it is. If you've ever seen The Legend of the Three Caballeros, they're featured in that. So I thought that was just something interesting to the side. But it's great to finally see Lena make that power her own and no longer need to rely on that power in order to maintain her physical form. It's because of the friendship she shares with Webby and Violet. Lena is now her own person and free to live her own life, free of the machinations of Magica Dispel. However, Magica now has her power, so it makes me wonder. It's just like, is Magica still going to be a threat somewhere down the line? Has she been unleashed on the world? But, at the very least, Alina will be there to stop her should she ever try to, go out into the world and cause havoc yet again. But tell me your thoughts in the comment section below. What did you think about the changes made to the Phantom Blot, where he's now a magic hunter? I have mixed feelings on that because I feel like that limits him as a character, but at the same time, it's also interesting because of all the magical involvement that Scourge has. He doesn't have the best opinion of magic, but at the same time, magic is so featured in Scrooge's life that he can't really get around that. Magica regaining her powers is interesting, but that very much makes her a danger that's just out there in the world. But Lena also has this great magic, which I'm glad we finally got to get the full brevity of her story arc. She is now her own person and free from any form of control that Magica could really have over her. There's other stories that could be told with Lena needed to turn to Magica in some capacity in the future, but I feel like that's not very much necessary. This episode was, used as a way of just completely making it so that Lena can completely sever any tie she has with Magica, should she so choose. Although I do wish that Lena would take back the Dispel name and try to make something good out of it. It's just like, I love that idea. It's just like, okay, this name has been used for evil for so long, I'm gonna make it something good. Because Magica did say at some point during this episode that Lena was a disgrace to their family. So it's just, I find that interesting that Magica to some degree still calls her family, all things considered. It's a very interesting dynamic, as technically Magica would be her mother to a certain degree. So I don't know. I feel like there's more to it that could be done with this whole storyline and the relationship between Magica and Lena. But all in all, a great episode. It was very nice. Still not digging the new duds for Lena. It's just not my favorite, but it's alright. A nice representation of how far Lena has come. But, let me know your thoughts and opinions in the comment section below. If you like this review, leave me a like or a dislike, depending on how you felt. Subscribe and hit the bell icon. That way you never miss out on another DuckTales episode review. And until next time, I've been Duuz-Diz-Din, and I will see you later. Have a magical evening. Bye-bye.